The following video will explain about the anterior leg and all of its muscles that are innervated and targeted via 4 workouts. The muscles of the anterior leg are called the quadriceps, but in more depth, they are the vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, vastus intermedius, and rectus femoris. The following 4 workouts will show you proper technique, common errors, and the areas the exercises target the most.
We will begin with the starting position. The athlete will step under the bar and position the feet parallel to each other. They will place the hands on the bar in one of 2 arm positions. There is the parallel arm position, which will have the bar in front of them grasped with a closed pronated grip. It will be slightly wider than their shoulder width and move up the bar to place it on the top of their anterior deltoids and clavicles, with their elbows fully extended and positioned fully flexed to the elbow to position the upper arms to be parallel to the floor. The second position will be a crossed position, where they will flex the elbows and cross the arms in front of the chest. They will move up to the bar and place it on the top of the anterior deltoids, using an open grip with the hands on top of the bar and the fingers holding it in place. Lift the elbows to the position and arms parallel to the floor. Next, we will have the cues of the starting position. To hold the chest up and out, tilt the head slightly up. Once in position, signal the spotter for assistance in moving the bar off the supports. Extend the hips and knees to lift the bar and take 1 or 2 steps backward. Position the feet shoulder width apart or wider if needed, even with each other with the toes pointed slightly outward. All repetitions begin in this position. Do not flex the torso forward or round the back. Continue flexing the hips and knees until the tops of the thighs are parallel to the floor. The trunk begins to round or flex forward, or the heels rise off the floor. Lastly, we will move to the upward movement phase. The athlete will maintain a position with the back neutral, elbows high, and the chest is up and out. They will extend the hips and knees at the same rate to keep the torso to floor angle consistent, keeping their heels on the floor and the knees aligned over the feet. Please do not flex the torso forward or round their back. Continue extending the hips and knees to reach the starting position. At the end of the set, please step forward and rack the bar. They will squat down until the bar rests on the supports.
In continuation with the front squat, as we just explained, there are proper ways to do the front squat, but there are also many errors. One major error in doing front squat that could cause significant injury is when your knees are bent inward. This is what we call inverted knees. This can be where both knees bend inward, or just one knee will rotate to bend inward. As shown in the video, the lifter's knees cave inward, most likely due to one of 2 explanations. He may have weak outer leg muscles, known as vastus lateralis, which cause the vastus intermedius, vastus medialis, and rectus femoris to overcompensate the front squat movement. In an article by Contreras, where 13 experienced resistance-trained women did variations of front, full, and parallel squats, the vastus lateralis was recorded by an EMG to have more muscle activation than gluteus medius and rectus femoris in the 10 RM exercise trial in all of the subjects. With that explanation done, there's another explanation that could have been that he was taught or never corrected on changing his form, which caused his vastus lateralis to become unused in this movement to keep his knees from moving inward. This can also be attributed to the fact that most beginners are not used to lifting, and without further coaching or teaching, they will continue to practice wrong technique, which can neglect muscles needed for safe lifting. Error 2 for the front squat. This one is called overextended back, which targets the lower lumbar. With a front squat, it is key to keep the back perpendicular to the floor as much as possible. As shown in this video, the lifter bends at the knees and slightly in the hips, but after the descent on this movement stops, the bending at the knees changes to only bending at the hips. This causes his back to almost become parallel with the floor, as it would if he was performing a good morning exercise. In obvious view, the main error in this video is the inability to keep bending at the knees and putting the majority of the stress on the lower back. By overextending the lower back, it may cause obvious strain and possibly severe injury if form is not corrected.
The use of a belt will be executed for core movements, exercises that put a load on the spine, and for exercises that are being performed at 80 to 90% of a perceived maximum lifting load. The placement of the belt is going to be close to the midline, around the belly button area. However, it will also be dependent on the athlete's feeling of security and ability to take appropriate inhales and exhales to execute the movement in the correct manner that is needed.
The goblet squat is one of the exercises that can aid in the muscles of the anterior legs. The goblet squat is a simple way to perform a squat movement. To set up, begin with a steady stance with your feet slightly wider than shoulder width apart. With a dumbbell held vertically, lift it up towards your chest and place your palms underneath the top part of the dumbbell. Once proper stance is established, begin the movement by performing the squat. During the squat, make sure to breathe in as you go down and out as you go up. Your hips should stay down and your back upright during the entire movement. The dumbbell should also stay close to your chest during the entire movement as well. As you begin to come up from the squat, drive your knees outward to keep them from caving in. The agonist muscles in this movement are the quadricep muscles in the front of the legs, which include the vastus lateralis, the vastus medialis, the rectus femoris, and the vastus intermedialis. The antagonists are the hamstring muscles in the back of the leg, which include the semimembranosus, the semitendinosus, and the bicep femoris. During the goblet squat, the quadricep muscles and the hamstrings are working eccentrically as you go down and concentrically as you go up. Muscles that help stabilize this movement are your common stabilizer muscles, such as the transverse abdominis, internal and external obliques, the rectus abdominis, as well as your erector spinae muscles of the back.
As we move into the errors for goblet squat, I would like to point out that these errors are exactly the same as front squat. As you hold the kettlebell in front of you, just as you would a front squat with the bar, the errors that are most commonly made are inverted knees and the overextended back, which targets the lower lumbar. For error 1, in inverted knees, One major error in doing the goblet squat that could cause significant injury is when your knees are bent inward. As shown in the video, the lifter's knees cave inward, most likely due to one of two explanations. She may have weak outer leg muscles known as the Vastus lateralis, which cause Vastus intermedius, Vastus medialis, and Rectus femoris to overcompensate the goblet squat movement. As said in front squat, another explanation could have been that the lifter was never taught correctly, and her Vastus lateralis lacked in training, in which her knees were moving inward. This can also be attributed to the fact that most beginners are not used to lifting, and without further coaching and teaching, they will continue to practice wrong technique, which can neglect muscles needed for safe lifting. The exercise that will be demonstrated in this video are leg extensions. For leg extensions, the major joint area used in the machine workout is the knee joint, and the muscles used in the exercise are the Vastus lateralis, Vastus medialis, Vastus intermedius, and Rectus femoris, which is the entire anterior leg. When setting up this workout, you want the knee joint to be aligned with the mechanics of the leg extension machine. The anterior side of your ankle and near the lower shin area should rest on the foam roller, where that allows you to use this area as an area of contact on the moment arm to lift the weight. The back of the knee should also be aligned with the edge of the seat, in which this will be used as the fulcrum for the contraction phase. Your back and glutes should be firmly against the seat and in a comfortable and stable sitting position. Head and neck area should be against the seat as well. The variations for this workout are the angle at which the feet are positioned. The first variation is the regular straight foot position that targets all anterior leg muscles with an emphasis on the rectus femoris and vastus intermedius. The other two variations are when the feet are inverted, which emphasizes on the vastus medialis, and when the feet are in an eversion position, which emphasizes on the vastus lateralis. As proper form for leg extensions was just shown, we will now move into the errors, which is error 1, swinging with the weight. When doing a leg extension, it is important to have controlled movement on both the eccentric and concentric phase of the machine workout. As shown in the video, the lifter is swinging uncontrollably with each repetition. For concentric phase, this may help power, but when using a machine or free weights, the eccentric phase is as much important as the concentric phase in any type of training, where control on the way down must be a priority as well. The swinging will cause stabilizers and agonist muscles to have little to no effect on helping keep the contracting muscles from decelerating too fast, in which may cause damage to the contractile capacity of each muscle fiber.
The major muscles used in the leg press are going to be the gluteus maximus, the semimembranosus, the semitendinosus, biceps femoris, vastus lateralis, the vastus intermedius, the vastus medialis, and the rectus femoris. The major joints used in the leg press are going to be the knee and hip joints. When using the leg press machine, sit in the machine. Your lower back, hips, and buttocks are pressed against the machine. Your legs are parallel to each other. Your feet are hip-width apart with your toes pointed slightly outward. Remove the support mechanisms from the foot platform and grasp the handles on the side of the seats. Allow your hips and your knees to slowly flex as the platform lowers. Tips: inhale as the platform lowers. Another tip: keep hips and buttocks on the seat, pressed against the machine. Push the platform up by extending the hips and knees. Push into fully extended position. Variations would include a wide stance with your feet slightly outward, toes pointed outward, and a narrow stance, which would have your feet in a narrow position.
As we move on from proper technique of the leg press, we will now move into the subject of leg press errors. Error 1 is called butt off the seat. An error that can decrease performance and possibly cause injury is when the lifter's glutes do not rest on the seat for extra support through the hip joint's entire range of motion. When the glutes are floating off the seat, the lifter puts the full weight of the machine on their lower back. As almost all lower body resistive workouts are, the less pressure on the lower back, the better the form is, and the less likely it is for an injury or complication to arise. We will now move into error 2 of leg press, which is failing to reach 90 degrees or more in full knee range of motion. As explained on leg extensions, full range of motion is important to go through for many aspects. This allows the glutes and quad muscles to get the most contraction needed from the exercise that can help them in daily activities that need approximately 90 degrees of knee flexion and more than 90 degrees flexion in the hips. If these degrees of freedom are not met in an exercise, muscles will not have the strength during daily activities in which contraction of leg muscles is beyond the degree you trained using leg press or any other machine.